Ready. Welcome to Shadow Alley. On this channel we talk about horror movies, mainly from the 80s, and silicone masks and other creepy things, so if you're into that sort of stuff, then please feel free to subscribe and stick around. Okay, today we're doing a top 10 list, and I'm probably a really inappropriate person to do it because I watched outrageous horror movies in pretty much any movie I wanted at a really young age, which is probably why I have a horror room in my house. But anyway, if you're thinking about introducing horror movies to your kids, you might want to start with ones that are entertaining and have great horror elements, but won't leave them scarred for life. These are the top 10 best gateway horror movies to ease your kids into the genre. I recently did a video praising this first movie for being cartoon-like, and it's for that very same reason that I think it's a great intro to the horror genre for kids. 1986's Howard the Duck is pretty cheesy, but definitely fun, especially for young viewers. But it doesn't shy away from turning dark at times. It has a few horror elements that might make it a great gateway horror movie. Speaking of gateway horror, this next movie is a fun story based around kids that open a gateway to hell in their backyard. It's 1987's The Gate. Building a horror movie around kids usually makes the film easily watchable for children, but make no mistake, it can still have some disturbing horror elements. This movie does a great job combining creepy visuals with a kid-friendly story, making a great introduction to the genre. I can't say enough great things about this next movie. It was one of my favorite horror movies growing up, and probably still is. It's Critters from 1986, and it's a perfect B movie that can be enjoyed by all ages. It hits all the horror movie tropes, but does it in a playful way, allowing younger viewers to stay entertained while still making the horror real and dangerous to the characters. This is a B movie done right. This next movie was probably your introduction to horror if you grew up in the 80s, and it obviously had to be on this list. It's 1987's The Monster Squad, and it's the perfect introduction into the classic Universal movie monsters. It's again a story built around kids, making it fun for them to watch, and it does a great job knocking the dust off the old monsters your parents grew up watching. One way to make a horror movie watchable for kids is to make it silly and campy, and this movie is the perfect example of that. Army of Darkness from 1992 might be the best example of a horror comedy that I could find. It gives enough horror elements to satisfy the older watchers, while keeping the action a bit more humorous, making it a great gateway film for younger viewers. We had this next movie on VHS growing up and watched it so much as kids that the tape completely wore out, so I know it's great for younger viewers. It's Beetlejuice from 1988. And I've never found someone that dislikes this movie. This might be more comedy than horror, but it has some interesting creatures and deals with the idea of ghosts in a child-friendly way. This is a great movie for all ages. I mentioned that I've never met anyone that disliked the last movie, but this next movie may be the most universally loved horror movie on the list. It's Ghostbusters from 1984, and I dare you to comment that this isn't a badass movie. It takes the subject of ghosts very seriously, but does it in a sarcastic and entertaining way, making it another perfect gateway horror movie for young viewers. This next movie is a great introduction for younger viewers to the vampire subgenre, with its fun premise and ass-kicking cheerleader main character. It's Buffy the Vampire Slayer from 1992, and it's another great horror comedy that doesn't shy away from its horror elements, but sets up a tone that keeps it more lighthearted for viewers of all ages. This next movie was my first horror movie experience in the theater, and it scared the absolute shit out of me. But it planted a seed of absolute love for the horror genre. Gremlins from 1984 has moments of true horror mixed with moments of silliness, causing young viewers to move closer to the screen at some points and hide their eyes at others. It blurs the line between scary and funny, and does it in a way that I think makes it a great starting point for beginning horror fans. Now, I've talked about this final movie many times, and I think it's the single best example of a gateway movie to introduce someone to the horror genre. It's 1990's Tremors, and I've referred to it on this channel as a perfect B movie, and the most rewatchable movie for me personally growing up. I think the simple fact that the movie takes place during the day and in broad daylight makes the horror elements a bit easier to handle for a younger viewer. If I could pick only one movie to introduce a young kid to horror, it would be this one for sure. So what do you think of my list? If you were trying to introduce young viewers to the horror genre, which movie would you pick? What makes a movie a perfect gateway to the genre? Put your comments below, and as always, don't forget to like and subscribe to help support the channel, and I will see you in the next one.
We came, we saw, we kicked its ass.